With the markets hovering near the highs, I'll point out what to look out for tomorrow, but before we get into that, there is the closing bell with the S&Ps down about 11 points. You can see we're selling off into power hour. And when I look across the board, the Nasdaq was our only index in the red. So just looking at that, we can tell that technology was weak today. When we just take a look at these S&Ps, we couldn't get above 4,200 and hold. And you can see we're getting a slight bid into the close, but we sold off during power hour. Now, when we take a look at this from a daily, we're just nested up near all-time highs. And you can see volume was relatively weak today as we're camping near all-time highs. Who wants to buy the top? Now, when we take a look at the SPX, we were coming into this week expecting about 65 points of move. 65 up would take us to 42.46. However, 65 down would take us to 41.15. And you can see for the most part, we've been about in a 1% range from about 41.75. for about 20 sessions. So we're just kind of waffling around near these all-time highs, and we're really waiting for a catalyst to take us higher. And I think that catalyst would be in the Nasdaq. And when we take a look at the Nasdaq, today it was down a little under 0.5%. The Nasdaq isn't looking too strong here. Just taking a look at this chart, you can see we're at an inflection point here in the Nasdaq. Are we going to keep going down this week? And if we do, how low do we go? And for that, we'll look at the options market's expected move. And they're expecting the lower edge this week to play 13,582. You can also see the lower edge from the week prior. I would say 13.6 is a fairly strong level of support. I can't see us just blowing through that, at least in this week's trade. When we take a look at the Russell 2000, the Russell 2000 today was up 0.6%. But for the most part, it too is just kind of waffling around here. On a year to date, the Russell's leading the pack up 16.8%, but it's just waiting for the broader base market to inch higher in the S&Ps. So we see today technology was weak. How did our other sectors fare? And when we take a look at our sectors, the XLE today was the best performing sector, up 2.75%. On a year to date, the XLE is up over 33.5%. After getting whacked in 2020, energy is coming back strong in 2021. Right behind that, we see healthcare up today, 1.14%. Some nice volume here. Healthcare could be on the rise, putting in a cup potentially, breaking to new all-time highs. On a year-to-date, healthcare is up 8.6%. Next in line, we had the industrials today up 1% and putting in a new all-time high. The XLI on a year-to-date is up almost 20%. So industrials and energy in 2021 have been relatively strong. We see consumer staples up 0.8%, about the same boat here as healthcare, trying to put in the cup here. Some nice volume coming in consumer staples today. Potentially could be putting in a new all-time high in tomorrow's tape. On a year-to-date, consumer staples are up just 5%. Next in line, the financials today up 0.5%. It put a new all-time high in. However, volume was relatively weak. But I also want to point out, the financials were in the green despite the yield down on bonds. The 10-year yield was down 1.5%, and it will be up to the bonds to decide which way this wants to go. And when you look at the ZB, the 30-year bond treasuries, they're up 30 basis points. You can see they tried to get going, however, got whacked back down, and they're bidding up right as we speak. But I mentioned in Friday's video, the bonds are what we're going to want to look at this week. Can the bonds get going? They've been kind of suppressed. It's trying to find a floor in. Do they tick higher or do they roll back down? If the bonds tick up, it's definitely going to help these tech names. And when we take a look at the sectors that were in the red, the XLK today was down about 0.25%, putting in some ugly candles here in the XLK. We even see software stocks today that were down 1%. About the same boat as the XLK, and we even see the big 5 today that's down over 1.5%, largely due to Amazon puking down 2.33%. We see Google down 0.6%. We see Facebook down 0.77%. Even Tesla down 3.5%. It's not in the big 5, but it has a big market cap. Today it was just Apple in the green, up 0.82%. But it wasn't enough to lift the Nasdaq higher. When we cruise on over and take a look at the volatility futures, down 3.6%. So the futures were relatively weak in today's tape. When we take a look at the VVIX, it was down about 1%. So after having 3 green days from last week, it put in a red candle today. We look at it intraday. kind of trended down. However, it did get a bit of a pop in the final minutes of trade, which is worth noting. But overall, going into tomorrow, I would say it's going to be up to technology. If other sectors can't get a repeat of today's performance, we could be seeing red across all major indices. But let's move on over and take a look at our dollar index and see what's going on in the commodities. Taking a look at the dollar index, it's down about 34 basis points. After seeing a short squeeze on Friday, it's rolling over in today's tape. As for our commodities, we take a look at crude oil. Today, it was up 1.35%. Volume was relatively low, but crude oil trying to break to the upside. If the dollar weakens, it will surely get to all-time highs before you know it. Definitely helped boost the XLE in today's tape, and as long as the crude oil futures continue to tick higher, expect to see pump prices at your local gas stations continuing to climb higher. As for gold, we take a look at gold futures today, up $24, 1.4%, seeing a nice candle here in the metal. When we look at it intraday, however, getting rejected right around that 1800 level. That's going to be the first wall to climb here in gold. Getting above 1800, then we potentially looking at 1820, then 1840. We'll have to take it day by day, but a lot of that move is going to come down to what the dollar index wants to do. And last but not least, we have Bitcoin. Taking a look at these futures today, they were up 0.4%. So Bitcoin getting outshined by gold in today's tape. And when we take a look at some of my charts, we'll start with the Coinbase chart. We'll do it on a 4-hour. You can see the crossover right here on this chart. So it's coming up. I'm expecting some big moves to be happening in Bitcoin fairly soon. I mean, just look at Ethereum. Ethereum to BTC is up over 10%. I like to look at Bitcoin denominated versus US dollars, because if a crypto is appreciating in dollars, is it appreciating in Bitcoin? And Ethereum has been on a beautiful run. But back to Bitcoin on the Binance chart, we'll put it on a 4-hour, and you can just see this Fibonacci giving it some stress. This 57.9 is going to be a hurdle for Bitcoin. Getting above this and holding, we could be on the races to 60K, then potentially 64 and breaking all highs. However, if we do see a downturn, maybe people FOMOing into Ethereum and other alts, 54.4 would play very strong support, but I'm looking at us to hang around this 57.9 level. And last but not least, Bitstamp. You see a crossover there. There was a bit of a volatility over the weekend. However, are we going to get footing back underneath this thing and potentially march higher? We'll have to see ultimately what these alts want to do, like Ethereum, Binance, Ripple's down today, even Cardano's up, and look at Doge. I like to look at them in Bitcoin denominations and think about it as lungs breathing. These alts get on a nice run, but then people cash out, either going to cash or Bitcoin, and we could see continuous cycles like this, in out, in out, in out of alts going back into Bitcoin. Ultimately, it's healthy for the space, because when you look at the total market cap, we're sitting at $2.24 trillion. We look at this on a daily, and you can just see we're near all-time highs in the total market cap, and if we do break higher, look for 2.74 trillion on its way to 3 trillion, which the entire space is going to continue to grow, in my opinion. And you got to ask yourself, how much dominance of that market cap will Bitcoin have? There you have it for the stock market breakdown. So today was a relatively boring day. When tech doesn't want to get moving, it puts a lot of stress on this marketplace. Tomorrow we could potentially see some rotation back into these big 5 names, specifically Amazon, Facebook, Google, that got hit pretty hard. However, if the selling presumes 13,600 in the Nasdaq is very strong support, at least for this week. Can't just see us diving straight through that, especially with an accommodated Fed. But I don't see much economic data in tomorrow's tape. With the VVIX bidding up ever so slightly, could be a little cautionary sign. Could mean technology is going to remain weak. I'm expecting a repeat of today's tape in tomorrow's session unless something unexpected hits the tape. But if you watch this far and enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like. It means a lot when you guys can show some support. And if you're watching me for the first time, show some love and hit that subscribe button. It really make my day if you guys can just take the extra time to hit that subscribe button. But any comments or questions for me, I'd love to hear from you guys. But on that note, I will see you in the next one. Have a great night. Take care. Peace!